The bunker shook. Warning sirens blared. On the main screen, an Apache helicopter locked onto the wrong target. A rocket armed itself, its coordinates pointed, back toward the base. "Shut it down," officers screamed. Static roared across every channel. The system wouldn't respond. In the chaos, one man pointed to a quiet mechanic in the corner. She did this. Arrest her." But then a bloodied pilot burst through the door, shouting words that froze everyone. "You're about to handcuff the only person who can save us." Who was this silent woman everyone thought was nobody? And why did her hidden tattoo make hardened soldiers tremble? Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Welcome to Grateful Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness are told. Let's uncover what really happened. The Nevada desert baked everything in sight. Heat shimmered above the tarmac, turning steel into mirrors and concrete into fire. Against that punishing sun, one woman worked in silence. Amara Lowell slid a belt of 30mm rounds into the side bay of an AH-64 Apache. Each shell locked with a click. Her hands were steady, her motions exact. She had done this so many times it was like muscle memory. Other crews worked in pairs, joking and cursing the heat. Amara worked alone, always alone. She kept her cap low, her eyes on the task, never offering a word unless necessary. Two privates lingered by a toolbox, watching her, their voices carried in the thin desert air. "Who's she supposed to be?" one muttered. "That's the ghost, General Nobody," the other replied with a smirk. The nickname stuck to her like dust. Nobody knew who started it. Nobody cared enough to stop it. One private laughed and nudged a box with his boot. The crate of shells tipped. Brass spilled across the ground. Amara crouched without a word. She picked each round off the asphalt, checked for damage, set it back in place. Her face revealed nothing. Inside, the sting was sharper than the desert wind. Captain Reed Maddox stormed across the tarmac, clipboard in hand. His boots hit the ground with authority, his voice louder than the engines warming up in the distance. "Lowell, you're slow again. When you're done here, move to Hangar 4 and get yesterday's inventory sorted. Should have been finished hours ago." She nodded once. Quiet, controlled. No argument. Maddox didn't wait for a response. He barked at another mechanic, tossing orders like stones. Behind him, the two privates snickered. Amara bent to lift another shell, sliding it into the feed chute. The round clicked into place. She checked the belt tension twice, then 3 times. Not because Maddox demanded it, because mistakes weren't an option. Major Grant Ellison walked onto the line, helmet tucked under one arm. A veteran pilot, tall, sharp, a man who carried the calm edge of experience. He approached his Apache, sipping coffee from a battered metal mug. He passed near her, glancing only out of habit. She stretched to secure the last latch on the rocket pod. For a moment, her shirt lifted just enough to reveal ink along her lower back. Ellison froze mid-step. His mug slipped, shattered on the pavement. Brown liquid spread across the heat-cracked surface. The design was small but unmistakable. Not art, not random. A geometric code, a string of numbers, precise angles embedded into a pattern. The symbol of a program most believed erased from existence. Amara lowered her arm, the shirt falling back into place. She didn't look at him. Her expression stayed neutral, but she saw his reaction in the corner of her eye. Ellison's jaw tightened. He forced himself to move on, but his stride wasn't steady. He knew what he had just seen. He knew the classified briefings, the redacted pages, and now he had seen the proof on her skin. Amara continued loading as though nothing had happened. Her hands never slowed, but her thoughts sharpened. She had lasted 1,162 days without anyone noticing. That moment might have changed everything. The midday horn signaled the briefing. Pilots filed into the operations building, dust trailing off their boots. Inside, air conditioning hummed, a small mercy against the desert heat. Maps flickered on the main screen. Photos of a dam complex filled the monitors. The mission, a surveillance run across a high-risk sector. Ellison stood near the front, listening, but his mind wasn't on the map. His eyes strayed toward the technicians visible through the glass wall. Toward her, on the manifest, one Apache showed an unusual loadout, alternating high-explosive rockets with armor-piercing ones. The kind of configuration not assigned to standard maintenance staff. The kind of change someone would make with intimate knowledge of terrain and enemy strategy. Lieutenants questioned it. Who authorized this wasting pod space? But the order to keep it stood. No one could explain why. Amara checked connections in the hangar. Every wire, every bracket, triple secured. Her mind cataloged every glance, every careless word spoken within earshot. She had gathered intelligence for years this way by being invisible. She whispered the count under her breath. Day 1162. No one heard. No one cared. Ellison returned to the flight line later, his helmet visor down, his posture rigid. From a distance, he stole one more look at her. Not the way Maddox looked at a subordinate, not the way the privates mocked. His look was sharp, focused, recognition. Amara closed the last panel on the Apache. The latch locked. She stepped back, wiped sweat from her brow, and kept her face blank. For the first time in 4 years, someone had seen through the mask. Ellison's gaze lingered a moment longer before he turned away. His expression carried a weight he couldn't share. In that silence, in that small glance, the story shifted. The base saw a mechanic. He saw something else. And Amara Lowell knew the cover she had built, day by day, under the desert sun, might soon collapse. Engines screamed across the airfield. The entire base pulsed with motion. Crews ran between hangars. Pilots checked systems, and the desert morning filled with the thunder of turbines. Amara Lowell moved among them like a shadow. Her hands worked, tightening a panel, securing a harness, confirming each connection. But her eyes scanned everything. She saw faces, gestures, radios passed too quickly, officers whispering in corners. No one noticed her watching. They never did. That was her weapon. Commander Victor Hale emerged from the operations building. His posture was sharp, uniform flawless, silver oak leaves on his collar gleaming. His eyes cut through the noise until they found her. Cold, measuring, predatory. He didn't speak. He only stood there, clipboard tucked under his arm, gaze fixed on Amara. For 4 years she had evaded notice. Hale's stare told her those days might be over. The briefing room filled with heat and tension. Screens glowed with maps of the dam sector. Streams of data scrolled beside satellite imagery. The mission commander outlined flight paths, timings, potential threats. Young Lieutenant Darren Voss leaned back in his chair, smirking as he tapped the manifest. Sir, Apache 2 is loaded wrong. Whoever handled it mixed high explosives with penetrators. That's not standard. Waste of space. Laughter rippled across the back row. Technicians whispered. Eyes shifted toward the glass wall, where Amara worked. Ellison stood, arms folded, gaze locked on the manifest. Silence stretched until even the air conditioning seemed to pause. Then he spoke. Keep it. Voss blinked. Sir Ellison cut him off. There's a reason for it. Leave it. Confusion buzzed across the room. Ellison had never broken protocol. Not once. Yet here he was, defending a loadout designed by a nameless mechanic. Amara caught his reflection in the glass. Just for a second, his eyes found hers. She looked away, face blank, heart steady. The silent understanding between them thickened. By 0900, the flight line roared alive. 4 Apaches lined up, rotors whipping sand into burning clouds. Crews cleared the tarmac, giving thumbs up as pilots strapped in. Amara stepped back to her safe zone, helmet earplugs muffling the thunder. Her gaze fixed on Apache 2, the one she had prepared, the one Ellison now commanded. The helicopters lifted as one, black shadows against a searing blue sky. Dust whipped across Amara's boots. She stood still, watching them fade toward the horizon. Minutes later, she slipped into the command bunker. The room hummed with electronics, walls lined with monitors. Officers leaned over consoles, tracking telemetry, weapon status, comms. She slid to her usual corner station, head down, fingers pretending to calibrate signal readouts. But her screen wasn't tuned to diagnostics. It was tuned to interference patterns. Her chest tightened. The data was wrong. The Apache feed showed clean coordinates, but the signal distortion bled across her screen. Frequencies shifted half a step off baseline, a classic sign of injection. Someone was manipulating the feed. Hale leaned over the primary console. His voice cut through the chatter, smooth and commanding. Direct them east. Tunnels are there. Amara's eyes narrowed. East. The intercepts she'd traced for weeks pointed west. Every chart confirmed it. Hale wasn't mistaken. He was steering them. Ellison's voice came through the comms. Steady. Copy. Adjusting east. Her hand slid into her pocket. A thumb pressed against a device no larger than a lighter, its screen invisible from outside. It recorded every fluctuation, every burst of signal. Proof. If she lived long enough to use it. Static hissed. One Apache jolted on the feed, its targeting cursor snapping wide. I'm losing lock systems aren't responding, a pilot shouted over comms. On screen, a rocket armed itself. Wrong coordinates. Deadly coordinates. The command bunker erupted. Officers yelled. Consoles beeped red. Warnings screamed across the room. The rocket streaked from Apache 1, arching toward a grid square frighteningly close to the perimeter fence. Abort, abort, voices cried. Too late. The rocket slammed into desert ground less than half a mile from the base. The floor of the bunker shook. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Someone swore. Targeting compromised, another officer shouted. Multiple systems showing errors. Hale's face hardened, his hand slamming onto the console. He spun, fingers stabbing toward the back of the room. Toward her. Her, he barked. She accessed the loadouts. She tampered with the systems. Arrest her. 2 military police surged forward, hands on holsters. Amara froze in place, her expression painted with confusion. Fear. The perfect mask of a low-level technician, blindsided by accusation. Inside, her pulse steadied, her thumb tightening on the recording device hidden in her palm. Every second mattered. One MP reached for her arm. The bunker doors burst open. Major Grant Ellison staggered inside, helmet gone, blood trickling from a cut across his temple. His flight suit was torn, dust clinging to his boots. He had clearly crashed, somehow alive, somehow on his feet. The room fell silent, stunned by his sudden appearance. He saw the MPs closing on Amara. He saw Hale standing tall, barking orders, and he didn't hesitate. Ellison strode forward, shoulders squared, voice carrying like a blade through the chaos. Release her. No one moved, I said. Ellison repeated, his tone dropping to a dangerous growl. Release her. Now. The MPs froze, caught between command and instinct. Hale's face twisted in anger, but Ellison's presence filled the room like a storm. Amara lifted her head at last. For the first time all day, she let her mask slip, her eyes steady, her posture unshaken. The game had just changed, and every man in that bunker knew it. The bunker shook with noise. Screens flashed warnings. Radios screamed static, and officers shouted over one another. The MPs still held their grip on Amara, shoving her forward. Victor Hale's voice cut through the storm. Restrain her. Now. His tone carried the certainty of authority, the cold weight of accusation. Then Ellison roared. Do you even know who you're trying to cuff? The words froze everyone. His bloodied face twisted with fury. His voice thundered through the room. This woman is Colonel Amara Lowell, Spectre Program, the one who dragged my unit out of Kandahar when command abandoned us. Silence crashed down. Officers blinked. Hands hesitated. Even the machine seemed to quiet for a breath. The MPs glanced at each other. Their grips loosened without meaning to. The name hung in the air like a detonator. Hale spat the words. Impossible. The file is clear. Colonel Lowell died overseas. Killed in action. Official. Ellison's eyes burned. Then your file is a lie. All eyes turned to her. Amara Lowell raised her head. For the first time in 4 years, her mask slipped away. Her voice was not the timid murmur of a mechanic. It was cold, commanding, final. Records can be rewritten, she said, but truth cannot. The room shifted. Dozens of faces reassembled their memory of her, the silent worker on the flight line, the target of jokes, the woman they had ignored. And now, standing taller, she radiated authority that could not be faked. Amara reached into her pocket. The small device blinked with captured data. She pressed it against the console. The main screen lit with jagged lines of interference, the fingerprints of sabotage. Signal jamming originated inside this bunker, she stated, her words cut like blades. Same encryption signature from Kandahar, 2016. The color drained from several faces. Officers muttered, shocked. The betrayal was no longer theory. It was proof, undeniable and brutal. Hale's hand twitched toward his belt. His jaw clenched. She's lying. This is fabrication. Amara zoomed the data feed. The pattern glowed, sharp and identical. You know these numbers, Commander, because they are yours. Gas echoed around the room. Hale's mask shattered. He shoved the nearest officer aside, bolting for the exit. Stop him, Ellison barked. The MPs recovered first. They launched forward, tackling Hale before he reached the door. He crashed to the ground, snarling, thrashing like a trapped animal. You think you've won, he spat, veins bulging at his neck. You think this matters. His boots kicked, his face twisted with rage. They pinned him, dragging him upright. As they hauled him toward the corridor, Hale snapped his head toward Amara. His eyes were wild, but his voice dripped with venom. Tell me, Colonel, how many of your Spectre ghosts do you think are still breathing? The words sliced deeper than any insult. They sold you out years ago, he shouted, voice echoing off concrete. You were dead to them before the desert even cooled. Amara's composure cracked for the briefest second. Her shoulders stiffened. Her eyes flickered with something raw pain, memory, doubt. Then it was gone. The mask of steel returned, but Ellison saw it. So did the room. A human fracture beneath the legend. Hale's curses faded as the MPs forced him down the hall, his voice trailing into distance. They betrayed you, Colonel. They betrayed you all. The bunker stood frozen. People stared at her not with scorn, but with unease. They had mocked her for years. Now they wondered what kind of ghost had lived among them. Amara turned back to the console. Her fingers steadied, pulling the data into organized files. She locked the evidence, sealing the record against tampering. Her words came low, deliberate. 3 years of sabotage, one network feeding on American blood. Today was the last move I needed. No one argued. No one even breathed too loudly. The door opened. A figure stepped inside, boots echoing against the concrete floor. Brigadier General Diane Rockwell. She carried the authority of decades, her face carved in stone, her eyes unblinking. Silence followed her like a cloak. Her gaze swept the room. She saw the wreckage of panic. She saw Hale's absence. And she saw Amara standing straight, no longer the mechanic, but the officer she truly was. Colonel Lowell. Rockwell said. Her tone was flat, military, unshaken. Your report, the title cracked the air like thunder. For 4 years, Amara had bent her head to orders from captains and lieutenants. For 4 years, she had swallowed the insults, the laughter, the invisibility. Now she stood tall, shoulders squared, eyes forward, her voice carried across the bunker. Calm, Absolute. Yes, General. It was the first time in years she had spoken her rank aloud, and it changed everything. Morning light spilled across the assembly hall. Flags hung motionless. The air inside heavy with expectation. Every officer on base had been ordered to attend. General Diane Rockwell stood at the front, her boots square, her hands behind her back, her voice carried without strain. For 4 years, Colonel Amara Lowell has lived among you undercover. She wore no insignia. She carried no recognition. She bore your dismissals in silence. And she did it to root out a traitor that nearly cost us everything. A murmur swept through the rows. Heads turned, eyes flicked toward Amara. She stood in uniform now, shoulders squared, rank glinting under the fluorescent lights. Some officers shifted uncomfortably. They remembered the orders barked, the chores piled, the careless insults. Captain Reed Maddox sat stiff in the third row, jaw locked, shame carved into every line of his face. General Rockwell continued. Colonel Lowell exposed a breach that reached into our own command. Her evidence has already led to multiple arrests. Lives will be saved because she chose to endure invisibility. Silence followed. Then Rockwell's words cut sharper. Every soldier here will remember this. Rank is not the measure of respect. Humanity is. Amara met Maddox's eyes for half a second. He looked away. When the hall cleared, 2 privates lingered near the door. The same pair who once laughed at her, called her General Nobody. Their faces burned red as they approached. Colonel, one stammered, standing awkwardly at attention. We disrespected you. We didn't know, but that doesn't excuse it. Amara returned their salute. Her tone was steady. Remember this. Everyone on a base deserves respect, no matter what rank you think they hold. The words struck deeper than any reprimand. The privates nodded, eyes low, and stepped aside. That evening, a small ceremony gathered inside the officers' mess. No cameras, no pomp, just soldiers who now understood who had walked among them. Major Grant Ellison stood before her, holding a small box. His face still carried bruises from the crash, but his posture was unshaken. He opened the box and revealed the eagle insignia of a full colonel. He pinned it to her chest himself. Then he stepped back and saluted. One by one, the entire room followed. Dozens of arms rose in unison. The salute that she had been denied for 4 years now stood solid, silent, and absolute. Amara held the moment without expression. Then she returned the salute, crisp and perfect. For the first time, she was no longer invisible. Later, when the mess hall emptied, Amara walked alone into the communications room. She knelt beside a console, pulled a hidden panel, and retrieved a drive no one else had ever noticed. 3 years of data, intercepts, encrypted calls, bank transfers, the backbone of Hale's betrayal. Ellison joined her quietly. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her slide the drive into a secure case. It's enough to dismantle his network, Amara said softly. But it won't end here. Ellison's voice was rough from the crash. You're saying there's more. Her eyes met his. There always is. For a moment, silence stretched. Then she pressed the case into his hands. If something happens to me, this goes straight to Rockwell. Promise me. He nodded, gripping the weight of it. The night passed without rest. Soldiers whispered in the barracks. The name Colonel Lowell carried like a ghost through every corridor. Some felt awe. Others felt guilt. But no one dismissed her again. Dawn rose clear and cold. The desert sky burned pale gold as a transport aircraft taxied across the runway. Its engines growled, waiting. Amara walked toward it with a single duffel on her shoulder. Her uniform was immaculate, her face calm, but her steps carried the weight of years lost to shadows. Along the runway, troops lined in formation, mechanics, pilots, MPs, intelligence officers, every rank, every face. They stood at attention, lining the path she walked. For once, She was not overlooked. General Rockwell met her at the ramp. "Your next assignment is classified," she said simply. "Project Iron Veil. You'll be briefed in transit." Amara nodded. No questions, no hesitation. She glanced once at Ellison. He stood in line, saluting with the rest, but his eyes followed her. She climbed the ramp. The transport doors closed. The engines rose to a thunder. Inside, she strapped into a seat by the window. The base shrank below, a maze of hangars and concrete disappearing into the distance. She pulled a thin folder from her bag. The cover read, "Project Iron Veil," the words stamped in crimson. Her eyes scanned the first page, face hardening, focus absolute. Another mission waited, another shadow to chase. On the ground, Ellison watched the aircraft climb into the sky. Wind whipped across the runway. Dust stung his eyes. He slipped a hand into his pocket and pulled a plain envelope Amara had pressed to him before boarding. He opened it slowly. Inside lay a set of coordinates scrawled in her handwriting. Below them, one line: "Some ghosts never sleep." Ellison folded the note carefully. He looked skyward, watching the transport fade into the horizon. He whispered under his breath, a vow carried by the wind. "Then neither will I."